What I thought we would do is have a couple of conversations with folks just to give you a little inside view of what we do and how we do it at the committee level. First going to have a conversation with Chevy Chase, and then we're going to talk with Rob and John from Eventide about BRI and SRI and all those interesting things that you'll learn more about in a minute. So welcome. This is Blake Doyle from Chevy Chase Trust.
Thank you, Russ.
Good to see you. Our work, we first look at a manager on a quantitative level, just to sort of see what they're up to, how they're doing in terms of just return only. It's the easy part. It's the statistical part that's easy to analyze. And so this is just a picture of the last 5 years of return when their new CIO took over, basically. So they've basically annihilated their benchmark in a fairly easy way. So the statistical part was pretty easy for us in terms of our search for a new equity manager for the portfolio, so it was simple. The harder part comes with the qualitative effort, the effort to sort of dig in a little deeper to see who these people are, what they're about, how do they tick, what makes them tick, how easily can they replicate what they're doing. And so last year at the forum, Chevy Chase was hired literally, I think, the week of the forum. And so we invited Blake to come, and she came, but we were totally unprepared. And so when we add a portfolio manager, we try to invite them up on the stage to talk for a few minutes. So welcome. I want to show a short video about Chevy Chase, and then we'll chat. If I can work this thing, I will.
Today, what we're seeing in retail is traditional brick and mortar stores are struggling despite a pretty healthy economy. The force of e-commerce, which is now more than 13% of all retail sales, ran into an outdated and bloated business model. The bottom line is that stores stopped being desirable locations. E-commerce filled that void with wider selection, fast delivery, and lower prices. Amazon's 9 times as efficient as the average retailer. In order to survive, some stores are shrinking footprints and focusing on service and experience. These same retailers are adopting automation in their supply chain to match the convenience of e-commerce.
The investment conclusions from our automation work are pretty straightforward. There's a lot of direct technology investments and companies that have specific leverage to this transformation that we're invested in. Most of those companies are either industrial companies that make warehouse equipment and automation. They actually make the technology that goes into warehouses, such as conveyor belts and shelving. Other companies, such as some RFID companies that make technology that will be utilized in these warehouses, are also likely to benefit.
The work that we've done on the retail supply chain is part of our broader theme of next generation automation. So we have 5 to 7 of these themes at any one time. The themes themselves are powerful forces that are changing the global economy. This differs from other firms where analysts are assigned to narrow economic sectors or industries. This thematic approach allows our analysts to look across sectors, across geographies, to really go wherever the theme takes them.
So Chevy Chase is very unique in what they do and the way they do it. So let's talk a little bit about you. Tell me a little bit about your background and how you arrived at Chevy Chase.
Great. Most importantly, I'm the mother of 3 little children. So I have 3 little ones at home. I've been in institutional sales for my whole career and was looking to make a move that would give me a little bit more of a balance with those children, and found Chevy Chase Trust as an investment firm that was really doing something different. We're thematic investors, which you might have gotten the sense there. And so, rather than kind of being focused on quarter-to-quarter profitability, earnings reports, market noise, it's a firm that's taking a much more strategic, longer-term view. We like to think of ourselves as an investment think tank. And so, we are investment managers, of course, first and foremost, but the analysts and really everyone internally is given the freedom to think outside the box, explore what is, what they find interesting. Our analyst was just saying yesterday that it's the best job in the world because he gets paid to do what he would look at on the weekends. That's Bobby, our automation analyst. But, we're allowed to be intellectually curious and really to talk about things that are happening in the world. There are a lot of value managers, growth managers, small cap EM managers. We get to talk about molecular medicine, about next generation automation, about urbanization, about things that you're reading about in books, in the newspaper, and how we're finding investment opportunities within them. So I just really love the approach.
It is unique. It's very different. Tell me a little bit about the size of your firm, how much you manage, how big is the team that oversees this portfolio?
Sure. So the firm's been around since 1999. We've been a global, unconstrained, all-cap manager since our inception. So what that means to us is we manage a stock for you all of about 37 to 40 stocks. So it's a fairly concentrated portfolio, but very well diversified. And really, we're going anywhere around the world to look for those opportunities. So the strategy is managed by a small team, 7 people. You saw Amy Raskin, our CIO. She previously led the thematic research team at AllianceBernstein she's been a thematic investor for over 15 years. So really, truly believes in the philosophy and thinks it's the only way to invest. Spencer Smith is our portfolio manager who works with the Baptist Foundation. And then we have 5 analysts who are thematic analysts focused on each of our themes rather than sectors or subsectors. The firm as a whole is just nearing about $7 billion in assets. Our equity strategy, which is our only equity strategy at the firm, is just shy of about $3.8 billion today.
And so how many stocks do you hold at one time? And then what's your kind of average holding period for a stock?
Yeah. I'm glad you asked that because one of my favorite statistics is, if you look back 4 or 5 decades ago, the average holding period for a stock was close to 8 years. And today that number is south of 5 days. So people have become very short-term. The whole market is very short-term investors. And so we like to think that we can basically do time arbitrage. We're looking longer term. We're looking not just a year or two ahead, but 10 years ahead at these big secular changes. We're hoping to invest through business cycles, through economic cycles, in really sustainable long-term trends. So we have anywhere between 30 and 40 stocks in the portfolio across 5 to 7 themes. There are a lot of themes happening in the world. We're not going to be everywhere, but we really want to pick 5 to 7 themes that we think are fruitful ponds to fish in and become experts on those subjects. So, yeah.
And so Bobby, who was the 12-year-old on the video, who's terrific, by the way, tell me what his current theme is and how that's working out for him.
So he's our automation analyst. He's been with us for over 6 years now, and he's been covering automation for over 6 years. He wears robot socks. He would admit that himself. He loves automation. And so, one of the things that we have to find when we find an analyst is somebody who can stick with a theme for 6 to 10 years. All he does is automation research every day, all day. We've followed automation as it's developed. Automation's been around for 3 to 4 decades. It's certainly not new, maybe more than that. But recently you've seen automation kind of break out of the automobile industry and into general industry. We've followed that progression over the past 5 or 6 years as it's moved beyond even consumer electronics and automation, or in aerospace and defense, and into the supply chain. So, the Amazon effect that we all read about. Amazon is really driving a lot of automation, same day, same hour delivery. The only way that happens is to have very automated warehouses. So currently, Bobby's spending a lot of his time on the automation of the retail supply chain. We're also looking ahead. There are a number of industries that are very non-automated. The textile industry, for example, is one. The food production industry is another. And then, of course, autonomous vehicles is an area that Bobby's spending a lot of time these days that we think is closer to reality than most people would admit.
Can they automate weather forecasting yet or not?
That seems to be something that no one's ever gotten right. Although we did just hire a new analyst who has studied space weather for the past 2 years, so I can ask her if she has any interest.
So there is weather in space. Okay, so good. So tell me about a new theme. I know you want to talk about something new, so give me a
Sure.
new one.
Well, I think autonomous vehicles are an interesting one. It's not technically a theme in the portfolio yet. We have 5 themes today: automation, genomic medicine, U.S. urbanization, and really wealth migration within the U.S. A theme around intangible assets and really data and data inundation, and then a business cycle theme looking at the U.S. relative to other developed markets. But one that Bobby's really excited about and has been working on for close to a year now is kind of the transformation of transportation. And this isn't just electric vehicles, it's not just autonomous vehicles. There's an overhaul coming. The average cost to own a car in the US is about $8,500 a year. Cars are one of the most underutilized assets that anyone owns, right? Most cars are made for 4 to 6 people. Typically, you have one person driving them. And in the past few years, you've really seen an upheaval in the way people think about transformation of transportation, moving beyond just autonomous, but scooters. I'm sure in some of your cities you've seen scooters all over. Bike shares. Bike shares in the U.S. have gone from about 2 million to over 28 million bikes on the road. So the adoption has just been really rapid, and you're thinking multimodal. So it's not going to be a one answer solution. It's not just going to be autonomous. You're going to have scooters and bike shares and shared vehicles in the way of Uber and autonomous all on the road. And it's just going to change the way people think about transportation and auto ownership, really. So we're early in this theme a bit. We are invested currently, you all are invested currently in 3 stocks that are exposed to that, which I'm happy to talk about a bit if anyone's interested. But sure. So Waymo is one. It's owned by Google. They're about to hit 10 million miles driven, and if you're going to go to Phoenix in the next few months, you can actually download the app and get into a driverless car as a consumer. So they're about to go commercial with this. It's the first time that you've really seen a company go from beta testing mode to commercial usage. So similar to Uber, the goal is that by year end in Phoenix, and I'm going in February, so I'll let you know how it goes, you can get into a driverless Google car, and it will take you where you want to go in Phoenix. So they're really on the precipice of kind of opening the Phoenix market, and that's going to be kind of a case study for the rest of the country, I think. There's a company called FLIR that you all own that is thermal imaging camera, and when you think about cars need to see. They need to see the deer in front of them or the person, but if it's dark, you can't see it. And one of the best ways and the best tools that you're going to have at your disposal is thermal and being able to see a heat signature and understand what's a stop sign, what's a car, what's a deer. And finally, there's a semiconductor company called NVIDIA that's used in these cars to rapidly process data. So, you can't be sending data back to a data center to process it and send it back to the car. That car needs to make a decision on the spot about whether it's going to stop or accelerate or swerve. And so NVIDIA is very exposed there.
And so lastly, you're global, you're not U.S., so tell me what that means to the portfolio.
Yeah, so we try not to ever put ourselves in any bucket, either sectors, regions, anything. We want to go where the opportunities present themselves. So we will look anywhere in the world. Right now we don't have emerging markets exposure for a variety of reasons, but we really are global. We're looking for opportunities that are exposed to these powerful secular trends, wherever they may be. So that we have a lot of Japanese holdings right now. We're actually very positive on Japan at this point. A number of developed Europe holdings. And we're pretty heavy in the U.S. simply because, to be honest, if you look over history, and especially the past few decades, the majority of innovation that has happened has been here in the U.S.
Thanks for coming.
All right.
See you in a minute on the panel. I'm going to invite Robin up now.